Welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. I'm JP, and joining me in tonight's Monday Night Live, my good man, Mr. Daniel. How you doing, mate? It's good to see you. I know you've not been on. You've been a busy man. How have you been, pal?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, JP. Good to be back. I'm not too bad, mate. Keeping busy in this mental football industry, you know what I mean? But how are you, sir? How goes it?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. As you know, mate, I was away on holiday a couple of weeks ago, so it's kind of good to be back. Good to be getting my Celtic fix and chatting about what we all love, and that's why we're here tonight, mate. Celtic have now made it a fantastic 4 for this coming transfer window. We've heard the news today, mate, that CALLUM Osmand signed a 4-year contract off the back of Benjamin Nygren signing a 5-year deal, mate. Doesn't matter what order you want to have a go at them in, Daniel. What's your thoughts on both signings, mate?
I would say with Benjamin Nygren, it definitely from again both signings is just clips and stuff. We've not really heard much, but in the media and stuff like that, I feel Nygren seems to be quite a good bit of business, not too expensive, penned a 5-year deal as well, so that looks to be a long-term kind of maybe project if he doesn't come in and hit the ground running. But just to build off of that, I think Osmond maybe did a bit of the same. From dribs and drabs in the English media, it seems like we seem to have got ourselves a half decent youth striker. And hopefully the guys can come in and show us what they're all about in these upcoming pre-season games.
Yeah, before we allude too much into that, Daniel, I just want to say a very good evening to everybody that's tuning in with us across the platforms. I'll come to some comments, as with a couple of early commenters this evening. And first up, evening JP, Daniel, and the chat. G-Doc's in as well. Good evening all. One I've not recognised before, Korean Celts. God bless Glasgow Celtic. I couldn't agree with you more, pal. Hope you're well. A good man, Plunge. Good name for a page, recliner. Hope you're comfortable sitting back and watching us. Hi everyone. Francis Lester, there he is. The man of mystery from last week. A few people were asking where Francis was last week, but there we go. He's all fine and well, and he says evening all, looking forward to the new season as we all are. Arlene Rankin joining us as well. Hi everyone. Good evening, Arlene. Thanks for tuning in, pal. If you're new to the show, please hit the like button and the subscribe, and you'll get a wee notification when the channel goes live. That goes for anyone else that's tuning in with us. Anybody new that's tuning in with us? Yeah. Denny the Manor says, "Hail, hail, boys." I don't know about you, Daniel, but these are some names for YouTube pages, mate.
Excellent, brilliant.
Absolutely tremendous. They must. I don't know if they stick these names in a tombola and just start pulling them out hats and having a go at it that way. But Lindsay joining us also. Hope you're well, pal. Hope everybody's had a nice weekend. I know the weather here was quite nice, and it's still up here in sunny Las Vegas. It's still really, really clammy, really, really hot. I don't know about you, Daniel, but I was feeling it last night, mate.
Aye, it's been a weird turn of the weather recently, hasn't it? But good evening, everybody, on this Monday evening. Hope you all have a good weekend. Yeah. But aye, mate, what do you think about these boys coming in and some early action for us so early in the window?
Well, the first thing I would say, Daniel, is this is a wee bit alien to us slightly.
Yeah.
Because we're normally, in the last couple of windows, we've been kind of slow burners in the summer. And, you know, the windows maybe kicked in and we've maybe had one player in, and then it takes a few weeks, and then maybe we start to get linked with another player or another couple of players even. But when you look at this window seems to be different, mate. It seems to be that prior to this window kicking in, the due diligence has been done, and we have done all the kind of the spade work before the end of the season. I'm really impressed at take Benjamin Nygren, for example. I think he'll be a big signing for us, Daniel. I think he's going to be a quality asset to the squad. Time will tell, obviously, how good he's going to be. But I've got a feeling he's going to be a very good addition, as will be CALLUM Osmand. And I know he just signed today in his 4-year contract, but when you look at his interview, and he strikes me as a lad that he's fully aware of the challenge ahead of him. He's fully aware of what's coming up. I quite like the fact that he mentioned that Matt O'Reilly spoke to him on the phone. For any Celtic fan that's probably wondering about this lad will be coming into the first team. He's not going to be part of the development squads. So he's coming straight into Celtic's first team. There's already chat about, the possibility, Daniel, of Johnny Kenny moving on. Yeah. So I would hazard a guess just now, mate, that is a distinctive possibility now that CALLUM Osmand's in the building.
Yeah. It does seem that kind of way. I mean, we spoke before about when Osmand, because we knew straight away that he was coming straight into the first team. So I think that was something we kind of discussed. Where would Johnny Kenny then fit into that? I don't think we've ever really seen him given a major chance, to be fair. Like, not that he has ever deserved one, but for what we've seen of him, I think it's been quite positive, I would say. Obviously, he only had a few cameo appearances there, but it was a successful loan spell. So if he was to leave the club, I would maybe hope it was a loan rather, but I think it's looking to be a more permanent move for him. But if he is to leave the club, all the best to him. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I feel personally just now, I don't know about anybody else in the chat that's watching us, or I feel that Johnny Kenny's not up to standard at the moment. He's not up to what we need in order to challenge our kind of main centre forwards. So I think Celtic have thought outside the box. They've went away and they've obviously done their due diligence on the lad Osmand.
Yep.
I quite like the fact as well that Craig Bellamy's behind this move as well. He's had talks with Brendan about it, and I think Bellamy's helped Celtic in that. If this lad would have then made the step up to Fulham's first team, if not for the cross-border thing, I feel that it might have been tougher to get maybe this boy if he'd went and done, just say, 6 months in a Fulham team, mate, where he'd scored a couple of goals, made a few assists, and really showed up really, really well. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Because I think, again, this is one that, we don't know about. We've not really seen much of him. But when you just look at him in his interview and stuff, you can't, I don't know about you, Daniel, but you kind of get a feel for an individual, mate.
Yeah.
And this boy knows, I think this lad knows straight away, he's no signing for like a Grimsby Town or,
aye.
He knows what the challenge is ahead.
Aye, absolutely. I think we've seen that in his interview, he did mention a few times about how he'd spoke to Matt O'Reilly, and he had an idea of the club already and the size of the club, and then Matt has just reaffirmed that for him. So he knew what he was he knows what he's walking into. He knows the challenge. He says he was quite keen to get in front of the supporters, and for a young man like that, obviously I'm a young man myself, but for a young player to get interviewed and say things like that, we don't often see it. Usually when the younger guys are interviewed, they they're a bit standoffish. They're a bit like they're not too keen to go in depth about their answers. But no, this boy's interviews, he looks switched on. Do you know what I mean? So, but I tend to agree with you when you say it would have been a bit more difficult to get that move had he been involved in the Fulham first team. I mean, we've seen it plenty of times. Guys who sit on the bench for Premier League clubs for 6 to 8 months, and then a couple of them come on, score a couple of goals, and then suddenly people are wanting 10 to 30 million for them. So
Yeah.
it would have been difficult, I feel, to get him if he was involved in that first team setup. But thankfully for us, he wasn't, and now hopefully let's see what he can do in these upcoming pre-season games.
Yeah, I think the importance here is to remember that you know there's been due diligence done on this lad.
Aye,
It's not just a shot in the dark, as in we'll bring him and see what he's like.
aye,
There's clearly work being done on behind the scenes for this lad, because you remember Mr. Dembele when he signed, he hadn't played, although I think it was about 40 games he played for Fulham. He hadn't played a lot of, games in terms of that aspect.
yeah,
He came and a lot of people were they didn't know what to expect from him, Daniel.
mm-hmm.
And he hit the ground running straight away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scored in his first few games. First Glasgow derby, hits a hat-trick.
Yeah.
And the first player ever to do it in a matter of a number of seasons and years.
Yeah.
So when you look at that and you say it yourself, and then you look how well it then turned out, I don't want to say this boy's the same as Moussa Dembele.
Aye.
But I'm quite excited, Daniel, in terms of the profile, because I've seen a couple of videos of him. I've looked at some of his stats, and I must say, mate, that it looks quite impressive.
Absolutely, mate. I think there's a few clips floating about, and he's won a couple of top scorer awards in the league that he's been playing in. So I feel like it definitely is a young prospect. Hopefully he can come into the team and hit the ground running like we've seen previous. But I don't want to place too much expectation on him. Do you know what I mean? Because as a move up to a new country, new league, stuff like that. But he does look keen to get going. But just to touch on Benjamin Nygren as well, I think definitely he looks to be one who is coming straight into the squad, or is it definitely be pushing to anyway? So, but yeah, I've seen something earlier on, somebody saying that it looks to be that we're just getting some background business done now, and then some just filling out the squad, things like that. But I don't feel like that's the case with Nygren. I feel like that's a player who we've had a look at. The offers have been made, and then we've went, do you know what? We'll just pull the trigger, which we've not seen done by Celtic in a transfer window in years. I don't think I've ever seen it. But yeah, it looks to be a new dawn maybe for a. Hopefully they keep coming, and we manage to get a good number of boys in the door who seem to have a bit about them, which these current lads do.
Yeah, 100%. Good evening to Ryan from the channel who's joined us in the chat. Hope you're well. And indeed, our sponsor of the podcast, Mr. Alec Beveridge. Hope you're well, mate. Hope you've not had too much of a hectic Monday or a start to the week, boys. Tuning in for a wee Celtic fix. Hope we can do his justice tonight, that's for sure. There's a few comments, Daniel, that are really, really, I would say this week's my pet peeve. And I'm probably going to use a bad word here. They're pissing me right off in terms of what I'm seeing in the nonsense and the narratives that are being created around them.
Yeah.
So I've seen comments on social media and stuff like, Celtic are only signing these guys because they're cheap signings.
Yeah.
And they're only getting business done because they're scraping the bottom of the barrel and all this kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
I do not understand what relevance it has on Celtic signing players. I don't have any, it doesn't have any relevance whether Celtic pay 10 grand or 10 million for a player.
Yeah.
It's what the guy can do and what his abilities are when he comes into the team, how he affects the team. Surely through the years, our fans have been humbled enough when you start making narratives up about players and then before you know it, 6 months down the line, you're choking in humble pie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Many times it's been done. I gave you an example right off the batting in Moussa Dembele. I remember comments about him when he was signing.
Yeah.
I remember comments when Griffiths got injured before we went into that Glasgow derby and there was folk worrying and panicking.
Yeah.
I just wish people would just, certainly if you don't have something to back it up, don't just spout nonsense for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because time and time again, as it's proven through the years, that'll come back to Biggie. What about you? In terms of that, Daniel, what's your thoughts there?
I feel quite similar. I mean, over the years, we've seen, in the last few years especially, we've seen, I think, maybe under 10 million spent to bring Jota and Matt O'Reilly into the club, and then both of them leave for a combined about 50 million pound, whereas you look at, we spend 10 million on Barkas and Ayeti, £5 million each, and both of them end up leaving the club on a free and have an absolute stinker of a time. So I feel Celtic fans just need to calm down. Doesn't matter how much money we spend on somebody. It's a new player in the door. If they turn up, they turn up. If they don't, they don't. Do you know what I mean? So let's not write people off as soon as they're in the door, or, as I'm going to allude to in a second, before they even come in the door, which we are now seeing with links to this Inamura. So I don't know how you feel about him, JP.
Well, again, mate, I'm certainly not going to sit here and speculate one pile of nonsense. And I'm certainly not going to put my name to something that I've not got a clue. If this lad's been identified, now we understand that reports are that he's now left Japan and he's on his way to go through his medical procedure before Celtic will probably announce his signing. He's a 23-year-old lad as well, so he's no dead young, and he's no somebody that's going to be coming into the B squad, in my opinion. He's a left-footed centre-back. So right away, mate, they're hard to come by in football nowadays.
Yeah.
Turns out now we're going to have three major left-sided centre-backs if you look at Liam Scales, Austin Trusty and Inamura. Again, mate, I'm not going to sit here and kid on, I know he's brilliant, or I know he's rubbish, or because I don't know anything. But what I will say, and it's something you can't hide, is any video evidence I've seen of him. And thanks to I know quite a lot about him now, or much more about him now, thanks to our good friend Mr. William Glavin, who's been on the channel many a times. I have never seen a centre-back switch a ball the way he can do it time and time again, and the accuracy he's got in it. You're talking, Daniel, it's no 3 and 4 yard passes I'm talking about here, mate.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 60 and 70 yard switches of play from one end of the field to the other.
Yeah.
What I have noticed as well is he's got a severe turn of pace. Now, unfortunately, Liam Scales isn't blessed with a severe turn of pace. Neither is, guys like Gustav Lagerbielke or Mike Nawrocki. In my opinion, they don't have pace. And that's probably one of the main reasons, Daniel, in my opinion, that, they're not in the Celtic team more often than they're not. Austin Trusty has had many critics through his time so far at Celtic. However, the big fella is bailed out because he's got pace. He's fast.
Yep.
But in terms of Inamura, mate, I go into every signing with nothing but severe optimism.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a fresh idea, it's a fresh prospect, it's a fresh look for the team.
Yeah.
I'm not silly enough and naive enough to sit here, mate, and start making judgments on somebody based on what I think they've done with previous clubs.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it, mate.
Mm-hmm.
People can all have their own opinions, and that's totally fine. But my opinion is I'm going to wait and see what happens when he gets here.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say to you, Daniel, is, and I've never doubted this for a minute, is I always back Brendan Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Because his job is to make players better. And by God, does he not have to do that and then some?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel with this boy coming in, it's not really fair because people talk about he's not played any games. The guy's only played, I think, is it what, 30 career games so far in Japan. So you can't really judge him at the club he's at just now. Never mind the club he's going to be coming to before he even steps foot in the door. So, like you says, we've seen some videos and stuff like that. Celtic wouldn't be signing him if there wasn't something that they seen, because we've seen it before. People that look excellent on clips and then come to the club and don't turn up, or guys that have looked rotten and then somebody signed them and they've been excellent. So this is what it does annoy me as well, mate. The people that are sitting watching YouTube clips and go, and I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that. That's the way football's moving now. You say about his turn of pace. That's the system that Brendan wants to play. He wants to have fast defenders who can play a pass and get us up the pitch as quickly as possible. That's just the way football is now. Back 20, 25 years ago, it was big, solid centre-halves that would run through a wall. Now it's agile centre-halves who can have the ball at their feet, can play a pass, and can run with the ball as well. So
technically gifted.
If that's what this guy's, exactly, mate. So if that's what this guy's got, Celtic are signing him for a reason. So we can't go, oh no, we don't like that, because we're not the manager. Like you says, if Brendan Rodgers goes, I want this guy. Now, we don't know how much Brendan knows about the Japanese market, but we've dipped into it before and we've been, I'd say, extremely lucky with some of the players that we have got. Now, some of them have been a bit of a miss as well, but I don't think Brendan Rodgers would put his foot into that market if he didn't see something in this guy that he wanted. So we can't comment on him now because he's not even here yet, but we need to see him play games. We need to see him in a Celtic jersey before we can then make our decision on him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about it, mate. I'm quite similar to you in that way.
Yeah, I know. I've obviously chatting to Ryan off camera, off air, and Ryan. I think Ryan makes a good point in terms of Brendan's. Statistically, it's not a market Brendan would go for or he would shop in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
However, Celtic as a massive network have obviously kept their toes in the water.
Yeah.
Through the success we've had through it with Big Ange.
Yeah.
Now, again, talk about naivety. If anybody thinks just now that Brendan isn't aware of this Inamura guy, or, obviously this profile has been identified by Brendan's recruitment team.
Mm-hmm.
With David Pleat, Paul Tilsdale, Tosh McKinley, who's a scout, other guys who are working at the club. This guy's been identified because Tosh McKinley was involved in the CALLUM Osmand deal. Because he tells you that on the Let's Be Frank podcast.
Aye.
When he was talking to Simon Houston and Frank McAvery. So he was part of that. So just as quick, he could have been part of doing a bit of due diligence on the lad Inamura. We don't know. But this boy's obviously been identified for having the tools that you've mentioned, Daniel, previously there, that Brendan's looking for. So Brendan, people can be different. You know, I know Ryan personally likes his defenders to be big, strong defenders who can clear the ball and get the ball out of there when your team's under the pressure and stuff. But as I've said to him before, whether we like it or not, Brendan's changed, and Guardiola's probably to blame for this in the way he's changed football and the way things become adaptable now in games. But Brendan doesn't want his defenders to be like Bobo Baldi.
Aye.
He wants his defenders to have a bit of pace and technical quality. Instead of sliding in and winning the ball, Daniel, he prefers his defenders to be able to skin people and go by the strikers and, you know, carry the ball into the midfield and keep the play going at a very high tempo. So, for me, this boy's clearly been identified as a profile that Brendan's been looking for. Now, the amount of nonsense I have seen written about this guy before he's even got here. No, I've seen people saying he's, you know, he makes Kobayashi look like Van Dijk, and it's just absolute nonsense, total rubbish.
Yeah.
There is not one Celtic fan out there who's actually saw it, unless you're living in Japan. Then you've not seen this guy play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't have like a, you know, the way we can switch on Sky Sports News or Premier Sports and boom, there we go, we've got our choice of Japanese Premier League, the J League.
Yeah.
But we don't have it here, Daniel. So nobody and their granny can tell me right now whether this guy's going to be the next Dewey or the next Virgil van Dijk, because they don't know. So to sit and just make stuff up, just whether you think it's funny or, for me, it's just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I look at things on the other side, like I say, as I go into these things with optimism.
Yeah.
Looking at the clips of him, Daniel, the right away, the things I identified, mate, is he's very good on the ball. He's an unbelievable passer to the ball. His distribution's very good. And he's got speed. Yeah. So, if you've got those raw qualities just now, what's a manager like Brendan Rodgers going to be able to do for your game, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
When you come into a team who are successful now, he's also, this is something else I want to highlight, Daniel, as well. He's playing for a team over there who I believe are like the St Johnson of the J League, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he's coming to a teammate who, compared to the team he's wearing now, it's like walking into Real Madrid.
Aye.
That's the jump he's effectively going to be making in terms of the guys round about him, the quality level, everything in terms of the training, everything's different. So when you, and again, I'm only going on that with what I've read. I don't know for fact. So what I've noticed as well is already the Japanese, the pitches that I've seen through the time of having guys like Kyogo, Maeda, Hatate, all the boys up here, all the parks over there look massive. They look ginormous. So whenever he's switching play, it looks as if he's doing it at the new camp. I know it's no, but you know where I'm getting. It just looks like it's a big area he's covering, Daniel, in terms of that pass. So I was quite impressed with when you see that, because it's not often you can see a centre-back doing that so comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not even going to try and compare him to somebody, because I can't, because I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
But he looks fast. And like I says there, Daniel, when you've got those qualities, mate, and then you've got a manager like Brendan, combine both, then God knows what can happen, mate. But if you are willing to learn, then I would imagine only good things are going to come of that, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan does make a good point there about, as a defender, your priority should be defending. But if we look at Celtic towards the end of the season there, um, a lot of our build-up play from defence was coming from this left side. So we've seen it with Brendan Rodgers in the past. He likes to push. He liked to push Kieran Tierney right up the park, especially in Europe, and we ended up playing a wee bit of a back three at times because of how high up the pitch Tierney ended up.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to now try and build for that left side again, you can't do that with a Cameron Carter-Vickers style player because we've already
Yeah.
got one absolute unit who would run through a brick wall. So you can't have everything. I mean, we've seen it with the players we've got just now. Technically, you're left a bit wanting. Physically, you're left a bit wanting.
Yep.
But if we are now bringing in somebody, if this is the way we're going to move, and it's going to build through this left-hand side up the pitch, you'd rather have somebody who can play that pass. Maybe a wee bit defensively weak, aye, but that's what they can be. That's what can be worked on. Do you know what I mean? Because we see it time and time again. Somebody mentions there about he needs to put a bit of muscle on. We see it time and time again with guys coming in, and obviously Scottish League is very competitive. It is very physical,
Yep.
and they do that work and they put that effort in, and then they come back a new player. Brendan Rodgers is the best guy for this development, but I feel we definitely just need to give it time. And I mean, it's a free hit for the guy, really, if he does, when he does walk in the door, because according to half the media, he's already written off before he even gets in. Do you know what I mean?
Not just
So
the media, Daniel. Not just the media, mate. Our,
he's in
our
fans
fan
as well.
base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a free hit for the guy. Is he going to be an immediate starter? We don't know. So pre-season is the best opportunity, I feel, for him to come in the door, show us what he's
Mm-hmm.
about. And we never know. He might, like you say, he does play for a bit. You feel a bit of a lesser team in the J League, so he might come into the Celtic setup, and Brendan Rodgers will say, "Right, show me what you can do," and he might be defensively sound. This is the if buts and maybes of writing somebody off
Mm-hmm.
before they're even in the door. We don't know. He's only played 30 games in his whole career. We don't know anything about him apart from what somebody's compiling in a YouTube clip. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
But
stats
the thing
and
is,
all
with a
that,
YouTube clip, Daniel, is you cannot hide the passing ability that's shown in mostly all his videos, mate. You can't hide
yeah,
that. You can't.
yeah,
There's no way you can doctor that in any way, shape, or form to just make him look all of a sudden he's better. Or,
yeah.
that's clearly, it's clearly something, and it's a tool that he has.
Mhm.
That again, that's why that individual's been identified by your recruitment team.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And that's how I look at it. That's how I'm viewing it. We were doing this tactical change towards the end of the season there, and now we've went out and we've looked for somebody who is able to fit that criteria. Maybe defensively a bit wanting, we don't know yet. But that from that perspective, that's how I see it. A left-footed centre half who fits the passing and speed range that Brendan Rodgers wants. But we just have to wait and see. So we don't know. Obviously, the guys at the club get a lot better look at him than we do. So I think it's just a case of giving the guy a chance to get in the door first, and then we can go for there.
Yeah, another thing as well is everybody keeps going like that. Well, he could be cover for KT. Well, he's not a left back. He plays left
Yeah,
centre back. He's never played left back for the team he's with just now in Nagata. So he's a left centre back. Celtic will probably still bring in a left fullback. They're still
yeah,
active in the market for a left fullback just now, as we know, Daniel. So
yeah,
for anybody thinking this guy is also going to be coming in to play left back, again, in my opinion, nonsense, because he's a left centre back.
yeah,
So the thing is I just wish that people would just hang fire and let the guy get here first.
yeah, absolutely. But
You picked up some of these forums on socials, Daniel, right? In your opinion, mate, what would you think any individual aspiring to sign for our club And some of the things that are being said regarding some individuals, even online, mate, how would you feel if you were one of those individuals and you started reading that, and then Sato, the Japanese translator who works really well with the boys we do have here just now, and he's been there the last few years, came and actually had to translate that over to you. Again, Sato might try and doctor some of that because he wouldn't want to use every bit of wording that, that's been written about the fella.
Yeah.
But how would you feel if you were that, and you'd be going, what the hell, man?
But if you look on the other side of that coin, it's then, well, if I'm being written off the minute I get here, that's then motivation to go and prove what I'm worth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's so many ways you can look at it. We don't know because sadly none of us are going to be signing for Celtic anytime soon. But I get what you mean. It can be a bit of a hindrance, but that just depends on the player's mentality. If you are getting, obviously it would put anybody off, but if you are going to sit and let that get to you, that becomes then a bit of a mentality issue. Are you mentally strong enough to be at a club of this size? Because regardless of how well you do, you're always going to get your criticisms. I mean, you could ask anybody in the fan support now who their favourite player is, and then you can ask them, but what do you not like about him? Nobody's going to turn around and go, I think he's absolutely perfect. Everybody in the support always has something that they can pick out about a player that they would like to improve. And that's just the way this club is because of how success driven that we are. So I feel it would be a wee bit of a hindrance, but hopefully if the guy is seeing a bit of the stuff that's getting said, it would only drive him on to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen our fans say things like Celtic need to spend lots of money for us to progress in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't spend lots of money last season, and we wasn't better in the Champions League than we did the season before. So I think it comes down to, Daniel, you need to trust the manager.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's been synonymous through the years by making players better. This is what he does. He develops players. Now, they might not be the finished article when they sign for Celtic, but by the time Brendan sunk his teeth into them and worked some of his magic, I mean, look at players through the year. I mean, you could write him off a list longer than both your arms. The players that Brendan's made better through the years.
Yeah.
I keep hearing this. We need to sign, we need to spend lots of money in order to progress in the Champions League. Well, we progressed last season. And in my opinion, we never spent the amount of money that the fans are desiring that we spend.
Yeah.
The fans want us to go and spend 15 and 20 million quid on one player, Daniel. That's what we're seeing on social media. And they think that that's got all the answers and that's going to answer all the prayers. There's no guarantee with that, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just signed off two guys there that we shelled out big money for at the time. And the two of them, when you get a game of 5 or 6 with you play with 9. You wouldn't phone any one of them. So, you're talking about Barkas and Ayeti. Unfortunately, it never worked out.
Yeah.
Last season, mate, the fans demanded Celtic went and signed Adamida. Now, that wasn't part of the contract, the loan deal.
Yeah.
The fans were going mental this time last season. Last summer, that's all we heard. Go and sign Adamida. Celtic did it. Okay, because of the inflated transfer market and because of how late it was getting done, Celtic had to overpay for that signing. But that became a demand from the fan base, Daniel.
Yeah.
Could you have pictured last season if we never signed Adamida? What the fans would have been saying then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a strange one. The way that football as a whole seems to be moving is it's just throw money about like it's nobody's business. But yeah, I think over the years it's been an occurring theme with the Celtic support. We want to see more money so we can progress in Europe. But I mean, an excellent point made in the chat there about PSG. They went and threw money about with no arms, and it didn't work for them. They signed a squad full of superstars and it never worked. And then they bring in a manager who goes, right, we're still going to spend a bit of money, no as much, but we're going to sign players who fit the way I want to play and can build and be a squad, and they go and win the Champions League. Now, in no way am I comparing this to PSG because they are far better than us technically, but as a club model, I think we need to be switched on because we've seen it. We've went and spent our equivalent of big money and it's not worked out. So we need to sign guys. We need to make sure that if we are going to go and spend that money, it is on players that we know guaranteed fit the system that we want to play
Yeah.
and we want to focus on and build a club and a squad who work together. They're not focused on themselves. They know how to play the roles and they go and excel in that role. So I've been saying I would like to see Celtic spend a bit of cash, but I think that's just because we keep hearing about how much money we've got, and it's when becomes, well, where is this money going? So I think that becomes a bit it. But that's a great point there as well. Splashing the cash is part of football nowadays, and if you've got it, flaunt it. If you don't, you can't. So I feel like we do need to focus on and not get too carried away on this chasing Champions League success. It's not going to be a case of signing 3 or 4 guys, boom, that's us, bang, round of 16, quarterfinals. It's not going to go like that. It was small progression. I mean, 10 years ago, we were lucky to even be in the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? It was if we qualify. Now it's expected. So it's small progression, and we need to kind of switch on and keep the heat a wee bit and not get too carried away about, because the club, I sent in a thing to the chat the other day there, JP. A guy had done an in-depth analysis of clubs in, I think it was the whole of the UK, and there was only 2 clubs, ourselves in Manchester City, who had a sustainable business model going. So I think that's where we need to not get carried away. The further we progress and the more that we do, it's going to be slow just now. It might be a bit tricky, and it might get a bit frustrating. But the more we build and build and build slowly, then we can then look to become a team that spends a fair bit of cash. But with the money in Scottish football, it's going to take ages. It's going to take a while because the Scottish game, we are miles ahead of everybody else in Scotland, and that's where we're at, and we're still a fair bit behind the richest clubs in the world. So it's going to take time, mate. But I get why people get carried away when they hear about how much money the club's got, how much we're sitting on, and we want to go and spend that money. But we do need to keep in mind you can spend 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 million on a player, and it doesn't work out because either like you said there, mate, people were dying for him, and then we do spend that money on him, and then albeit he does have a successful season, but then everybody sits and goes, we spent 9 million on him and he's only done this. Was it worth it? Do you know what I mean? And then the guy's getting a lot of stick. Now, I'm no his greatest fan right now. I'm really hoping that he can prove to us why we spent that money on him. But it's always this 2 sides. It's so fickle. So fickle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think a lot of the fan base as well, mate, last season forget that we actually broke our transfer record twice in the same window.
Yeah, exactly.
But there doesn't seem to be getting any... That doesn't get mentioned. Yeah. It's just this same narrative and same agenda. We need to spend money, we need to spend money. I can't remember who it was in the comments. I seen a comment there saying they used to think we need a marquee signing. We've already got one. Kieran Tierney.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Kieran Tierney returning to the club as a marquee signing.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree because that left side in Europe has always been our downfall. So he is our marquee signing. That should hopefully shore up the defence in Europe if we can keep him fit. So I think the only time we'll see a bit of cash spent on a player now heading into towards the rest of the window is if we see somebody go. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to see a 15 to 20 million pound signing. No chance. We might see a 7 or 8, which would be quite a bit. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think we're going to see another massive, oh my God, how have we signed him, unless somebody leaves. Because I think we are still in talks for a few of the previous mentioned players who have been linked with. The couple of wingers, I think we're still in talks.
Yeah.
Some people saying we need physicality in
That's what I'm
midfield.
saying,
I
mate. The
tend to
club
agree,
are
mate.
really, really active around the transfer market just now. They're not just with one or two. It's not one or two. They've brought in 4 players. The 4 players they've brought in are all coming straight into the first team. I see comments about things like we need starters. There isn't such a thing anymore in football. It's a squad game.
Yeah.
You need players to come in and help the team. Look at the Scottish Cup final. We were really, really low numbers due to injuries.
Yeah.
So I hear this word about bench fillers and guys that are going to sit on the bench and keep the bench warm. By God, did we need that in the Scottish Cup final? We didn't have enough. You're talking about Rio Atati was missing. Here's another option for midfield. Jota was an option for the forward area. He wasn't available. So there's 2, in my opinion, 2 of our marquee type players in the squad who, in my opinion, make a difference straight away if they're on the pitch. So you can't just go, we need guys to, there's no such a thing in football now as a guaranteed starter. Managers will have certain individuals who, they are their favourites, but Daniel, with the amount of games that Celtic play now, mate, I don't think there's such a thing anymore. I think it's all about squad now. It's all about numbers in order to see out a season, because you think the amount of ties in games individually that Celtic need to cover, and I'm not even talking about pre-season here, but you could add that into the mix as well through the full football calendar year.
Yeah.
And you're talking about well into your 60s. That's nearly 2 seasons, Daniel, into 1 year.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think the calendar is getting a lot more trying on the players. So I feel like if you're going to have a squad like, what a name that is, Square Sausage Mix says there, Bayern and the cup final, we were left wanting a wee bit. But if you're looking to sign guys who maybe are going to be on the bench and carry that bit of quality, you're not going to see a lot of money spent on that, because you don't want to drop £5-6 million on a guy who's only going to sit on the bench and then make an appearance if somebody is either not playing very well or injured. Then it becomes that player becomes a bit frustrated, because it was quite a lot of money spent on me to come here. How am I not a starter? So it's everything with transfers is 50-50. There's so much risk, there can be so much reward as well. So, but I'm really surprised at how active and awake the club seems to be, because we've mentioned before we need to be proactive rather than reactive. And it's good to see that we're now gone and looking and getting people in the door early, and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're only now heading into July, and we've got 4 guys in the door. 3 if you don't really include Kieran Tierney as a summer signing, but we might not see a lot more people in. Do you know what I mean? But we also might at the same time. So it's hard to pinpoint, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird one. We can only wait and see. If guys come in the door, hopefully fans tend to wait and see rather than jump the gun. But it's only natural to jump the gun.
Too late, mate. Too late. It's already happening. It's already, things are being said and crazy narratives have already been put out there, mate. So it's already happening. So it's too late for all that.
Yeah, but with anybody else that comes in the door, hopefully pre-season will be a great opportunity for them to then go, this is what I can do. Do you know what I mean? So, pre-season upcoming, mate, it'll be a good chance to see if we are making that quality that everybody's mentioning, like strengthening the squad and stuff like that.
Yeah, Daniel, we've made 4 signings, right? And usually by now, Celtic fans are going tonto about Celtic not making any signings. We've now made 4 signings, and you know what it's like? The Celtic fans are now saying, no Ray-Wans.
Yeah.
No Ray-Wans. Somebody else. And for me, it's like banging your head against a brick wall, man. It's like, what is the point? But I'm the same as you, mate. I'm really, really happy the club are so active, and it looks like there's certain departments in the club maybe no stopped for the summer. The rest of the boys have all went away for a break. But there's people in the building who've been in the building for some time, and I don't know about you, mate, but I'm really, really happy with the business we've done so far and the 4 players that we brought in.
Yeah, it looks to be great business that we've brought in. Like Paul Maguire says there, we all like to have our own. And football is all about opinions, Ryan. You're very, very correct, mate. So, but it's great business for the club so far. Hopefully we can keep it up a bit, and hopefully we are seeing the strength in the squad that we are all craving.
Yeah. Obviously, it's been a wee while since you were on last yourself, mate. I think I've already done this with the lads. I'll need to take these banners away momentarily. Hold on. We'll get another wee look at the pre-season fixtures, Daniel, is as follows. So Celtic start this Friday.
Yes.
They play Queen's Park. Then we are on to Cork City. Then it's Australia over in the Algarve. Then Sporting Lisbon. Then we play Newcastle. Then Ajax. Then it's the 3rd place playoff of the Como Cup, if you've not been successful already. And then it's the Como Cup final. What's your thoughts on those fixtures, mate?
I think it's a very positive pre-season. Some very competitive games in there. Open the doors with Queen Park. That'll be a good game. They'll be up for that. I don't think it'll be a full strength team that we'll start with anyway. I think we might see a bit of that rotation that we mentioned there. Same with Cork City. I think it'll be a bit of a rotated squad there. But I think heading into the Como Cup, I mean, Newcastle and Sporting Lisbon back to back, they're 2 great games. You'll see starters there. So that's when you'll start to see, for the first game of the season, who's looking to be the ones that Brendan Rodgers is going to put out on the pitch. And then obviously Como Cup, playing two good or 3, is it 2 or 3 quality teams there?
I think so.
Ajax will be a tasty one, it always is. That's again a great bit of competition for us.
Yeah.
So hopefully we do see, as pre-season goes on, we start to see the squad take shape with any new additions coming in, or if we do see anybody leave, because you never know. But yeah, hopefully I think it will definitely be a case of Friday will just be Celtic are back. Let's get a watch. See how it goes. Hopefully we do win. I think Queen's Park will be very, very, very up for it. As they were last season, and I think they will give us a good game because they've got a half decent team. So, exciting times, mate. Some exciting games in there coming up actually, rather than just times.
Yeah. Typhon McFustery says, "Will we see Benji and Callum Osmand play against Queen's Park?" Who knows? I don't know. Like I say, they're obviously with the lads now, so I don't know. Maybe young Callum might get a run out. I would be shocked if. I think I'd be more shocked if we don't see any of them. They're there. So why no? I know some of our boys that have went away in international and I think we're about 13 to 16 players down off normally our squad. So
Yeah.
I do think we'll see some of them over the next game or two. I think it's interesting though, Daniel, because I think when you always look at Brendan's pre-season, Brendan's pre-season is always designed in a way, mate, that's going to tackle the next season.
Yeah.
So I think Mac 1967 in the comments says it's quite a lot of games. I think that's the way it's been designed. And it's been designed like that because that's what's going to happen during the season.
Yeah.
So right away, it gets the players in that way of working, that routine, rota, you know, the way of doing things. Because Celtic have rotated the team all last season, the season before. They need to do it now because there's no winter break. They need to find a way of really getting legs working and minutes into all the legs. So I think it's designed like that. I think also, Daniel, looking from the outside of it as well, the quality level changes each opposition you're playing.
Yeah,
Again, I think that's designed, and it's been designed like that because we've got you're going to be hopefully playing the Champions League, so you're going to be meeting that level of quality head on.
Definitely, mate.
Obviously, teams like Ajax, Sporting Lisbon, Newcastle, all these teams are synonymous with playing in Europe.
Yeah.
So I do think it's been very cleverly designed, Daniel, for those aspects, mate.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I mean, not majority. We do see a step up each game in opposition. And we definitely do see us playing some European caliber teams, mate. That's how I look at it. People looking for that progression. We're all looking for that progression in Europe, and I think this pre-season has been designed to be like. No, don't get me wrong. The European level in some of the teams fluctuates a wee bit, but when you look at the fixtures, there's more difficult games than normal pre-season games, if you get what I mean. So it definitely seems to be designed as this is what you're going to meet. Obviously, hopefully in the Champions League. If not, you're still going to face opposition of a half decent quality. So here's a few games against some teams that we've handpicked, because let's not kid anybody on. These teams have been picked for a reason. I think there's a few clubs in there who give you a different style of European game. So if we were to face a team like that in Europe, so it's definitely handpicked and designed for looking to get that step further in Europe and just getting us ready for this Champions League qualifier, like it says on the screen. So I think it will be definitely a good way to get us used to playing that level of opposition straight off the bat and being a team that can go and get this qualifier done and then wait and see who we get.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do, mate, is just be patient and try and... I think things will start changing, mate, as we go. So, run about probably by the Newcastle game, I think you'll have seen movement from us with players maybe going out the way. So I think that's when, for me personally, Daniel, that's when I think Celtic, you'll see the team starting to take some sort of shape. And what kind of way we're going to be looking for next season. When you tackle an opposition like that, then you want to get into that game pretty strong. And certainly your starting lineup would be pretty strong. There's a wee question here from Mac 1967. I'll put it to you first, mate, before I give my answer. And he says, basically, do you guys think we will still look at getting a main striker in?
I think we'll still stay active and looking for one, definitely. Whether we see one come in, I'm not too sure. Hopefully, yeah, because you can never have too much competition up front. Keeps everybody fresh, keeps everybody going. But striker all depends on what Brendan plans to do with Daisen Maeda. So if Maeda looks to be more of a winger this season and we don't bring anybody in, Ida will be our main man. So if Maeda is going to be on that wing like we've seen, then you would like to think that Celtic would stay very active and look to bring somebody in and get that competition for up front. But if Maeda is going to be a striker, then it becomes a bit more of a I'm not too sure. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. But I think if Maeda is going to be a striker, we might maybe see another winger come in the door. And if he's going to be a winger, then I would like to think that Celtic would stay active in searching for a striker. I don't know how you feel about that one, JP.
Yeah. So for me, pretty simple. I think with the addition now of Callum Osmand, I think you'll see Johnny Kenny moving out the building. Whether that be an extended loan deal or a permanent signing for another club, I don't know. I do think you will see Johnny Kenny moving on. And I think he plans on playing Maeda through the middle, Daniel. Now, that might not be music to Celtic fans' ears. They might not want to hear that. They might, certainly, I know speaking to Ryan before we came on tonight, I did tell Ryan my thoughts there. And Ryan doesn't think, I think he's even said it in the comments here as well, that, for in Ryan's opinion, that Maeda, Ida and Osmand going into Europe next season doesn't make Celtic better. And that's fine for anybody to have an opinion. I just think that's the plan, mate. And I feel that, as you mentioned, the wingers that we're being linked with, I can see two coming in, not just one, two. Because of the extended time that now we're going to be still without Jota. Time will tell whether Yang's going to be able to take his game to a different level again. Who knows? Because he's improved, certainly, from the time he's been with Celtic, from many side. But I do think a lot depends on what happens with Nicholas Kuhn as well. I do think if you sell him, they'll need to bring in another winger. But I think we could see Celtic changing the system.
Yeah.
And I think Nygren's been brought in to be the number 10. I think Celtic are going to go to a 4-2-3-1. What's your thoughts, Daniel?
Obviously, we will have to wait and see. But I think if we are going to shift positions and change the system, we'll see that straight away. So that's one to keep an eye on. I feel I'm torn because obviously we see. I agree with Ryan that he thinks if we go Maeda, Ida, Osmand moving into Europe, it doesn't make us stronger up front. It's more of the same. We've seen both players play up front. Obviously, Maeda and Ida were semi-successful in Europe playing up top. So if we don't move Maeda out of that number 9 position and you go and get somebody who is going to push them, I think it would only make everybody in that group better. And because I don't see us getting Jota back anytime soon, so there's if we do get a couple of wingers in the door, then we might see Maeda play through the middle, and then it becomes a bit of a question of whether we're going to get somebody. I would like to see another striker in the club if Johnny Kenny is to leave. Whether it's going to be that starting quality push, I'm not too sure. So yeah, I think we will see a couple of more wingers coming in to give us that cover, and Maeda, hopefully. I liked him through the middle. I thought he was very, very good. But for Europe, I definitely tend to agree that it doesn't make us stronger. So in that department, we might. It just depends on what happens. I'm not too sure. I would like to see it, but you never know.
Yeah, I'm trying to second guess Brendan here. I think KT is also a wing back as well.
Yeah.
I don't see him as a natural inverted fullback.
Mm-hmm.
For that reason, other lads were picked ahead of him at Arsenal. For that reason, because he's, in my opinion, I don't think he's done it often enough, Daniel. I'm not saying he can't do it, by the way. I'm just saying I don't think he's done it often enough. And I think Brendan would rather play to that individual's strengths rather than asking him to do something else that he might not be able to do it. But, Tierney coming in field could allow then Tierney to switch off momentarily, and then we're caught on the counter with a wide right switch of play, and before you know it, we're opened, and it could then start creating animosity within the back three there.
Yeah.
With Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, and whoever the next centre back's going to be, whether it be Liam Scales or the boy Inamura or Trusty or whoever else is going to be there. But I do think that's why I think the system changes is going to happen, because he's brought in two players that would suggest to me that he's ready to change the system. I know what you're saying, Daniel, in terms of we'll see that early doors in the pre-season. Yeah, we will. But I wouldn't be surprised if you do, because of the two, like I've just said there, Benjamin Nygren and Kieran Tierney have both got that makeup.
Yeah.
In order to change that to that. It would also make sense as well, I think, because you could rotate Hatate in and out with Engels as another controller to get in beside Callum McGregor.
Yeah.
I would like to see Engels in there, because I think he's got that height, strength and physicality to be able to get in and help Callum McGregor in there. Although I do think we will sign another central midfielder as well. So I do agree with Francis as well. I do think there'll be other surgery happening within the squad as we progress down the window. But in terms of the centre forward position, to answer the question honestly, I really am, unless something miraculous happens and we end up getting rid of Johnny Kenny and we sell Nicholas Kuhn or whatever happens there, Daniel, I do think that the centre forward position, you've got three there, and I do think Maeda will want to try and target one of those slots, mate. This is just my thoughts again for the up and coming World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like if we were to switch to that 4-2-3-1, I tend not to agree about Arnie Engels dropping into that deeper role. I think obviously we've seen him playing that 6 for Augsburg, but we've seen him here when he's playing the position he's playing. He's struggled with that. I don't agree about his physicality. I think we've seen it too many times. He's been pushed off the ball too easily, and then he becomes frustrated, and then he looks to then become a bit of a head loss liability at times. I mean, we've seen it in games against Rangers. He did lose the head a wee bit, picks up a yellow, and then he's whipped off. So I think if we were to move system, we might see somebody else come in for that position. I feel like that would be the best move. Nygren looks to be a number 10. So I think then Arnie Engels becomes that rotational, maybe for him. And whether he's happy with that, I'm not too sure. But I wouldn't like to see Engels drop deeper, because I don't think at this moment in time he has that physicality for this league yet. He might pick it up, he might prove us wrong, but that's just how I feel. But on the flip side of that, we've said about the system we've had for the last couple of years, it's been the left back comes in, moves up, picks up the ball, sprays the play, gives another option in midfield. Kieran Tierney is a calibre of player I feel who could adapt to that. It's no his strength, his strength as a conventional left back, and that's what people have said. He gives that, whereas Greg Taylor doesn't.
How long would we need to wait though, Daniel, for him to do that, to make that change? Because he's never had to do it up to now.
Yeah, that's the question then. It becomes, you know what I mean? So if you look at both sides, he might be able to do it and we might see him try, but if he is going to be our starter and we get a lot of games out of him, like you said, I think we will see a shift in formation. But if we were to stick to what we've got now, I don't know how long it would take, Kieran. Obviously, that might be something that they focus on heavily in pre-season, but I think he does have the minerals to be able to adapt and push forward.
Yeah. Just knowing the areas in the pitch and knowing the game, mate, I just can't help but think we're ready to change system. And I think Brendan's tooling up to try and do that with the addition of KT and Nygren. And I think those two boys mentioned, mate, are real assets straight away to the first team, because I think they then take the quality level of the first team up. In my opinion, I don't think we've replaced Matt O'Reilly. I think Engels, I like Engels. I think he's quality, and I think he's got a very high ceiling. I think he'll kick on again next season. However, he's not a natural number 10 the way Matt O'Reilly was. Benjamin Nygren seems to tick all those boxes. We're talking about a guy here, mate, that's only played 4 games so far for Sweden, and he's scored 2 goals out of those 4 games. That's not bad going, mate, considering, he's not a lot of international games. But to score 2 goals out of the 4 games, mate, that's a great start. Yeah,
it definitely shows promise. Absolutely, because we've seen it on international stage, and it's not easy to do. Do you know what I mean? We've seen guys who have been unreal quality who then step into their national team and just can't do it. So it's definitely exciting. We might see a change. I'm not too sure where, but it's a big talking point if we do see a formation change. But then where does Rio Hatati fit into that? Do you know what I mean? Does he become that rotational 10? Does he become that 6? Where does he play? Because he's unreal quality. So that's what you need to look at. Do you know what I mean? It's a massive question mark if we do, and then it becomes what you're going to do now, because you've got these 3 quality guys in midfield. Obviously, Callum McGregor's I don't see that changing. It might, but I think Callum McGregor is going to play the same role that we've seen him play for the last few years. But then if you do change the midfield about, it becomes who plays where and why. Do you know what I mean? Because we're seeing it in the chat just now. We're seeing it in the chat just now, people sharing their opinion, and it all is opinions, do you know what I mean? So that's what then comes with changing that formation, I feel.
I do agree, though, in terms of the double pivot helps Callum McGregor to roam forward a wee bit more. But I'm, as I said, we're all here just to try and give our best thoughts and what we think's possible and what we think's. I mean, you obviously says in terms of what you don't see Arnie Engels get in there. I think he's getting in there. I don't think it's an if or a buts. I think that's what's happening. I think he's been prepped this, and you'll probably see that over pre-season. I know you said about Rio Hatati. But he could be like a floating 10 and all, because Hatati's a goal-scoring midfielder. But sadly, a wee bit of me still thinks Hatati's getting moved on, Daniel. I think he is going to be the ones that, maybe not just now, in terms of, I don't know how fit he is or if he's back for injury or what, but I do think he's going to be one of the ones that do exit in this transfer window, Daniel.
I mean, I did say that to you previously, JP. I said I thought before his injury, it was shaping up to be maybe we'll entertain an offer, and then obviously he does get injured, and then it becomes a bit of a what do we do now? So I've said it before about player cycles coming to an end. Obviously people love Rio Hatati. I'm so up and down with him, because like they're saying in the chat, some games he's amazing, some games he isn't. And how long do you rely on that? Do you know what I mean? How long do you wait and go, this is when he's good? Do Do you know what I mean? So I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. If he was to leave in the summer, his injury has definitely, for me, cancelled that out. If we do see him leave, it'll be in the January window. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. But it's exciting. We'll see. Hopefully, we will see if there is any major changes to the team. We'll see that straight off the bat on Friday.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get a good look at some of the boys that have come in the door.
Do you think that'll be fair, though, as we said at the beginning tonight, that because we certainly, in my opinion, I don't expect Celtic's strongest side to field the team and take us out on Friday night, but I think maybe as we go, like you've said, with the Australia game and then into the kind of Sporting Lisbon game, by then, Celtic and the way Brendan will be wanting to shape up by then, we'll start to see that happening then, Daniel, for sure.
Oh, 100%, mate. I agree. With the step up in quality of the games, you're kind of forced to do that, because if you want to compete and you want to make them competitive and try and get something out of it, you can't field a lesser team, because even if these teams that we're playing do that, then it becomes a bit of what's the point? Do you know what I mean? If you're playing these high value teams, you want to be using your best team and try and figure out how you're going to play. So if we do see change in the squad, formation wise, face wise, then I definitely think as we progress up, regardless of who and what changes, I definitely think the strength of the squad will increase as the games go up.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, mate. It's all about progression, and no matter way, shape or form that comes, every Celtic fan could probably agree. And that one thing is, that's all we're looking for, is for the team to try and be successful again next season. Now, I'm not going to say be better, because it's going to be hard to be better, as in a ball hair away from winning a domestic treble and getting to the Champions League knockout phase. In terms of Europe and stuff, mate, I'm pretty much a realism and a realistic person when it comes to that. And I was jumping for joy, mate, when we got to that knockout phase. And you talk about that as well. We put the frighteners up, a Bayern Munich team there, who spend astronomical amounts of money compared to what we can, mate. I think that's what people need to understand as well. We play in the Scottish League.
Yeah.
The Scottish League doesn't attract that carrot, I'm afraid, that you can, quite a lot of our signings are probably going to be guys that we don't know, to quote Big Alan in our chat last night, because I think that's a fair point, because a lot of them we won't know, unless it's guys who are maybe come to the end of their contract, they've played down in the English Premier League, they're looking for a different challenge, guys like Scott Sinclair. I know this didn't work out, but guys like your Shane Duffys, Casper Schmeichel, Joe Hart's, like these guys are all kind of names that would be known in British football. But unless that's happening, mate, which is once every time you roll a six in a casino, these kind of transfers, mate, are very far and few between. So I think a lot of our fans as well need to be realistic in that the players that we're going to sign are players, I'm afraid, that work against our football transfer model, because we can't go and pay 20 and 30 million quid for guys like João Pedro and I wouldn't even say João Pedro. I mean, I've seen a £66.5 million bid for Brian Mbeumo's been rejected by Brentford from Manchester United. The football world's gone absolutely. I don't think he's worth that, let alone anything else. Now, I'm not saying he's not a bad player, or he is a bad player. He's not a bad player, he's a good player, but this is what I'm saying, that this is what you're up against.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
And by the way, people are actually calling this, Daniel, your run-of-the-mill transfers.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine what the higher brackets are? You're talking amazing. It's mental, Daniel. It's absolutely mental. So that's where I would call for a wee bit of realism as well, as in, you've got to know what pond you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel the way we're seeing Celtic strengthen, our focus as a fan base has been Europe. We've made that clear as a club as well, from Brendan saying that's what he wants to do. But also, I think with some of these signings coming in the door, it's looking to shore up domestically as well, because we have now grown accustomed to winning the treble, but we've not managed to do it in the last 2 seasons. Do you know what I mean? We've not managed it. Obviously, the
Yeah.
first season Brendan was back, we'd
By
like
the
the
way,
first
and
hurdle
as
in the
you say
Scottish
that,
Cup.
you quickly make that sound like we've no won we've no won anything.
Yeah, no,
But it's just
we've been
the way
successful,
that
but
comes across is like, but that's what I mean. But when you just see if you listen to that back, I mean, even after tonight, and you go, JP's right. That's where our fans are. That's where
yeah,
that's where the
exactly.
thought channels are in our fan base, because the way our fans go, oh, we didn't win a treble. It's like
Yeah,
we've no won, we've no won
no one
anything.
in. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
that's because of the man in charge, who's the head honcho at our table, Daniel. He's the man that's made that channel thought process in your mind be a reality.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, we have been successful over the seasons, but like you said, we've now grown accustomed to being treble winning every season, and like I said previously, we talk about how dominant we are domestically. That cup final was a wake up call, I think, for me, definitely, that we need to keep ourselves switched on at all times. We can't get carried away in this. It's fine, we're going to win it anyway, because the other teams around about us in the league are strengthening. I mean, Aberdeen gave us a big shock. They're still nowhere near us, but it then becomes, if you're
Yeah.
going to focus on Europe, do you focus on Europe completely and let go a wee bit domestically? And I'm not in any sort of way suggesting that we should do that. It's just one of the things to think about. Like we talk about domestic um, victories and stuff like that. It's become the norm. So you need to kind of find that balance, and that's what I think these signings are now becoming, being as strong as possible and making sure that we pick up everything domestically, which is mental.
Yeah, 100%. A wee comment from the slabbering cabbage. Now, probably quite fitting, should it come from such a page. The comment says, Jesus Christ, JP, did you fall asleep on Burnt Island? Have you wrote that down for 8 o'clock since we started? And you've just been dying all night to get that in? Or did you have to Google that before writing that? Because, wow, man, that's genius. Wow. Probably more fitting at the name of your YouTube page, I'm afraid. The Slabbering Cabbage. Aye, yeah, I think he's had that off his dad, and he's just went, oh, boom, here we go. And I'm just going to say this because it sounds, it needs to get said, and it probably sounded funnier in your in your own head before it came out. To be fair, Square Sausage Mick, there's somebody else at Clo, doesn't know me, I know. No one, there's that many. There's that many laughy faces in the, in the emojis and everything else in the chat. The majority of people that watch this channel, for a simple fact that there's another commenter saying JP get a sense of humour. Daniel, there's nobody on here get a bigger sense of humour than me, man. And aye, it's one of the ones. Hey, GG, lighten up, JP. By the way, I couldn't get any brighter. Like, I was in holiday a couple of weeks ago, and the guy in the lighthouse was after me. He came after me. But, aye, as I say, it's It's one of the things. When you go on holiday, by God, Daniel, you're not allowed to get a tan. Oh my goodness.
I don't think I'm helping me any, man. I'm spooking the place up here. I'm as white as a sheet. Sun's no caught me.
Aye, 100%. But square sausage, Mick, behave yourself, son. Don't start coming out with insults, and you clearly don't know me. You clearly think for a minute I'm being serious here, and I'm somehow I didn't take that as fun. I think you need to go and watch previous podcasts and get a wee indication of what I'm all about, pal, before you make silly comments like you just did. Slabbering cabbage, it doesn't matter, mate. You don't need to be sorry. Listen, you get a good one in there and you managed to do it before we finish, so good on you, pal. Good on you. But I've heard other ones as well. Aye. It's all fun, guys. It's all fun. You go on holiday, you get a tan, that's probably the t-shirt I'm wearing tonight's probably not doing me. And to be fair, the light I'm under doesn't help me either. So it's it might look red to you guys, but it's certainly not red up close in person. It's brown. So I don't know what you guys are seeing. It's certainly no red when you're up close in person. It's brown, but this, to be fair, the light I'm under, Daniel doesn't do me any favours, mate. And it's probably my biggest downfall.
I think that's a great question there for Typhoon. I'm not even going to attempt that name, but
Typhoon Flustery. He commented earlier, didn't he?
That's the one. That's a great question to finish up, I feel on. Do we have a strong enough team to do something better in Europe than last year? I'm not too
for
sure.
Me,
on
Daniel,
that.
I don't know about you, mate, but we're already stronger.
I disagree there. Like, we've got 4 guys in the door, the new, right? But obviously on the left side, yeah, we do strengthen, but on other areas of the park, I feel it's too early to ask that question. We don't know. We've not even seen us play a pre-season, so I think definitely if we get the right guys in the right positions, we can see that. On the left side of the defence, I think it's rubber stamped. Yes, there is an improvement in that part. So I would say in that area of the team, yeah. But as a whole, I'm not too sure yet. I don't know how you feel, JP.
No, I think we're stronger. I think we've improved our goalkeeping department tenfold, in my opinion. I think Doohan's a better goalie than Scott Bain. Kieran Tierney is a world-class left-back. I think we've improved our left-back situation even better. And I think we've replaced Matt O'Reilly. I don't think we've had a number 10 in our team all last season. I think some of the games last season, you could look and argue saying, we kind of lacked a number, especially Scottish Cup final. It was as flat as a dodo that day, and people are saying Atati would have gave us that difference in the midfield, and things would have happened there. I think we've improved the starting 11. Time will tell as well, but I've got a good feeling about Callum Osmand. I'm going to stick my neck in the line, Daniel. Actually, I'm going to say he's better than Johnny Kenny. So I'm going to say we've improved our team. Kieran Tierney, I mean, right away when you say that name, it's of course you've improved your team. It's how can you not have? My goodness, Greg Taylor's away to Greece. We've signed Kieran Tierney. That's like signing R9 compared to Bobby Petter. And no disrespect to Bobby Petter, I thought he was a great sell, and he's went on to the fans love him, and he does all these kind of nights now. But yeah, man, I know what you're saying, Daniel, in terms of I've not played in pre-season, but what I'll take for that as well, and why I've gave my opinion the way I have, is you look at the team as well, Daniel. Guys like Arnie Engels, I think even Austin Tursty, Brendan makes players better, Daniel.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, mate, I think what happened last season, and 4 experiences of last season, that alone, mate, makes Celtic a better unit.
Yeah. But with players like Arnie Engels and Trusty, we're just going to have to wait and see. Do you know what I mean? So it's hopefully I'm no disagreeing with you that in defence we look stronger. It's just overall we don't really know yet, so we're just gonna have to wait and see once we play games. And thankfully on
Yeah.
Friday that is what we get to see, mate. So yeah, I think it becomes a case of asking that question further into the season rather than before we've kicked a ball yet.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to make that judgment round about, I don't know, Novemberish and say, right,
Yeah.
are we better than last season or did we look better than last season? And there's a question there about KT getting in. He's not injured just now. So right
Yeah.
away, for me, that signing alone, you've improved your starting 11.
Mhm.
And nobody's going to tell me otherwise. Kieran Tierney, as much as, by the way, I've been a big advocate for him on here. Kieran Tierney, people think Greg Taylor was very good. By the way, they're in for a treat when they see Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
Because like I says, it's like, I don't know, like I've says, you've took out Bobby Petta and you've brought in R9. That's a kind of difference in quality level. That's where you've went to with your team.
Yeah.
It's probably the best analogy I could use. And I mean, that's no a diss on Bob. I'm just using. I'm sure if Bobby seen this, he wouldn't. I'm not slagging him off or anything. I'm trying to give that. It's probably not a fair comparison, but it's probably taking Bobby Peter out and bringing in Scott Sinclair. There's an easy comparison, and so yeah, it's. Yeah, and I don't doubt that. And Tierney's the best defender at Celtic now.
Yeah.
People will probably argue and say it's CCV, but he becomes the best defender at the club, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
There's nobody's close. As much as I've said that he's not a natural at doing the inverted role, he's still the best defender in the club.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that he tackles people at 100 mile an hour. That's what I love about him. And I cannot wait till we play the Glasgow Derby. Because people think we need someone to do the kind of nasty side of the game. Well, you brought somebody back there. And, you know, definitely brought somebody in the team that's certainly going to let people know they're there, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But obviously, as we've said, first game's on Friday. I want to thank everybody that's joined us in the chat tonight. Daniel, thanks to yourself for coming on and having a chat with us, mate. It's just been good to get Celtic doing business early and getting things done early.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's good to see. Thank you to everybody watching. Hope you have enjoyed listening to us to have a wee whinge about everything going. But Celtic back on Friday. Hopefully it's to a good standard and we get a look at some of the boys we've got in, and hopefully further down the line we get some more people to come on here and chat about.
Yeah. As I said earlier, guys, the channel is sponsored by AB Entertainment. It is indeed our man, Alec Beveridge. He was in the comments earlier near the beginning of the show tonight. We'll be back on Thursday, I believe, with another live podcast. Probably all the chat that's happened from now to then. Hopefully we've got another couple of things we'll be chatting about. Who knows, we might have even signed Hayato Inamura by then, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, because I know you boys have struggled prior to with the enunciations of players and stuff. I was having a laugh when I was on holiday and I was watching on, and you were even just called him Benji because you didn't want to attempt these. And then I heard a few of you saying the Swede.
That
and
was
I was
Mago.
like, I'll not be long before he's getting called turn up.
That was Mago.
Aye.
Don't want to picture anybody.
No, fair enough. And I can't blame you. But indeed, have a good one, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hope you're all well and looking forward to Friday as much as we are to see Celtic back on Celtic TV. quarter to 8 kick-off. But for the time being, take care. Hail, hail. We'll see you all again later. Bye-bye.